Hi, teachers. Our next strategy is Show Me the Evidence. This strategy is utilized to help students develop, utilize, and progress their academic vocabulary and reading comprehension by analyzing and understanding text complexity within secondary sources, most commonly the textbook or other secondary publications, and that they would find in a social studies class. It is all the students will also cite the text as evidence in order to show mastery of the content, and they will distinguish fact from opinion, and they will focus on key events, themes, or concepts. In your teacher's manual, you will find the literacy and writing standards that this strategy covers. The materials needed is not very much. You'll need the template that you have already pre-filled with statements and some sort of reading assignment. Background and preparation. Create statements that align to the reading assignment that you have that you will give to the students. The statements should, for the first few times that you are working with this strategy, make sure that the statements are in chronological order until the students become familiar with this strategy. The statements should be both true and untrue, and throw in one or two statements that the students can cite evidence from the text and support both sides, whether it be true or untrue. This will give more excitement to the activity, and students always love a good debate. So if they can find evidence that supports their side one way or the other, this will enrich this activity. And each statement, of course, there needs to be evidence in the passage for each statement that you give your students. And please make sure your statements are not verbatim from the text. Make it where it's not a right there answer. It's a search and find evidence to cite to support. Okay, so the procedure and process. You will distribute the Show Me the Evidence template that you have already pre-filled with the agree, disagree statements. And beginning with the first statement, I would allow the students to look over the statements. You'll see, if you've already printed out your copy of your template, you'll see the first column has plus, minus, or question mark. Plus, true, minus, false, question mark, debatable. That first column there after the statement column allows students some time to read over the statements and add plus, minus, or question mark their thoughts. And this could be a bell ringer, because then you could allow students to discuss the statements and then decide. Then I would take a group poll and write down what the group as a whole thinks about each statement. Then pass out the reading assignment. Before you pass out the reading assignment, discuss with the students, help them decide what they need to look for as far as evidence. What in the reading, what might they find that would either support or support that the statement is true or untrue, and list that in the third column. Then pass out the reading assignment, and this will be an individual activity. The students will read the passage and then begin gathering evidence. After the evidence is gathered, then the students will go back to the statement and decide in the very last column if indeed the statement was true, false, or is still debatable. Then you come back together as a group and you discuss your findings. And as I said before, you may have some students that still think statements are debatable, and that provides rich discussion. Process and procedure for Show Me the Evidence. So remember that the way we use this is before a student reads the text. You will have already using the templates in your module. So you will pass out this template with the statements already generated on the Show Me the Evidence template. If you want to create your own, remember that you will need to create your own statements from the reading. And so this is the text, as you can tell at the top, childhood loss. This would be from the Progressive Unit, Industrial Revolution Unit. The statements are already populated. So the first thing that you would do is the before reading. So before reading, you would pass out this template, and you would ask your students, you would give your students the instruction to read each of the statements. And in that first column at the bottom, I have my students write, pencil in before reading on the columns that they're going to do before I give them the passage. So they'd read the statements, and then in that very first column after the statements, they would put a plus for if they think the statement is true, a minus if they think the statement is false, or a question mark if they think that might be a debatable statement. I make sure the students know that they are not going to be graded on this column, but they need to give an educated guess on each of the statements. Then I have the students share what they wrote down in this column with a partner. And then I guide them into especially the first time that I use this strategy. I guide my students into, like, we talk about how a text is set up, maybe vocabulary words that you might find, maybe headings to paragraphs, things that we would look for in our text that would help us narrow down where we might find that statement, evidence to either to support that statement or to prove that statement false. So we go through and we write down what to look for before we read. Then the students gets the text, and this is when they start citing their evidence in the third column. This is individual work. So they go through, and I tell them those are small areas there on the template. If you need more space to write down your evidence, you can either annotate the passage, or you can use the back side of the sheet that I've given you. So either way, but this strategy is a great way for students to learn how to cite the text. I also let them know that in order for a statement to be debatable, they need to cite evidence to support both sides, that it's false or true. So that really narrows that citing textual evidence, really helps. I cannot stress enough how useful this strategy is, especially to those 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students that need to learn how to annotate, how to take notes, how to cite evidence. Then after they are finished, they will go to that very last column and then give me the plus sign for true, the minus sign for false, or still a question mark if they were able to cite evidence to support both sides for debatable. And then they get back with their partner and they compare their evidence and what they have, and then we share out. This leads to great discussions. So that is the Show Me the Evidence strategy.